right, I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. This was an interesting one to try to pull off between weather and other conditions, but we wanted to make sure that it happened because it's so important to come together and to recognize our veterans on Veterans Day. Thank you for being here. Thank you for anyone who's watching live online. We are live streamed on Facebook right now. So we're going to begin with some opening remarks from our town supervisor, the Honorable Richard Thurston.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you for emceeing the event today, and I welcome everyone. You know, we wanted to, as Jessica said, make sure we held this, assuming the weather cooperated, and actually I think the weather's better this year than it was last year. We had a lot of cold and freezing temperatures, so this year it's kind of set the stage for our warmest appreciation for all those of you who have served and continue to serve, the country as so many do, and served in such a selfless, manner. Let us recognize that amongst us and those that are particularly viewing our ceremony today, that we have, in the town, countless number of veterans. We have veterans that are serving in positions on the town and also providing other support. I saw on one of the news services this morning that there are 19.5 million veterans in the United States today. Over 9 million are over 65, and I know that there are a few young ones here as well today, and I really appreciate your service and thank you for coming. And the number that used to not be posted, but there are 2 million, and I was going to asked Tommy beforehand, but I see you standing there, but how many animals serve our country? I couldn't find any number today, but over 1,000 dogs serving the Army in many different locations. So, I'd like everybody that's standing, stand, and those that are sitting in a service, just wave your hand so we know who you are, and so everybody then afterwards can go and thank you. So, wave your hand if you had served or are serving, in the armed forces. And please, a round of applause for everyone. Thank you. Back in July of 1953, my uncle, who is a major general in the Marine Corps, and they had their birthday yesterday, and my father was proud Marine, and my uncle was serving in Korea, and actually he was in charge of military intelligence and reconnaissance and was standing on the 38th parallel, dividing the North and the South. And he told me, and I constantly remember this, that he remembered clearly at the time that he knew what mattered, which was fighting for our democracy to keep it free from, as he said, petty dictators and demagogues. At the time, he was thankful for his life, although he was, and had been willing to sacrifice his life for his patriotism and sense of duty. What's really unique about that is that within 5 minutes of him thinking of that, the North Koreans aimed one of their gun turrets toward him, shot a 50-millimeter howitzer at him. He just miraculously ducked, and it ripped off his right shoulder, and the howitzer artillery shell in the arm went on the other side and exploded, and he was then, because of their standards, drummed out of it wasn't really drummed out. They moved him out of the Marine Corps into what ultimately became the CIA, so he continued to serve, but miraculously survived. And I've always remembered very much his statements about willingness to sacrifice. And he shared with me that he was always willing to and that all of us must be willing to commit to ensure that our veterans receive all the recognition, care, and benefits that they so rightly deserve, and that we must never disparage them. And we know that war takes a heavy toll on many folks, including those here, and we want to continue to recognize that. And great appreciation we'll hear from our Assemblyman Karen Lawler and Senator Sue Serino and Kevin Hawthorne, who heads up our Veterans Committee. As the rains start to sprinkle on us, I'm just going to stop there so we can get on with the program. But again, I want to reach out and thank everyone. And at this point in time, I'd like to call on our color guard to present colors. This is Marist College ROTC, so please come forward and present your colors of the United States of America. Thank you. Okay, now would everyone please recite, along with me, the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the great nation of the United States of America. Please look at the flag. We have several locations, so let's start with I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Why don't we please have a moment of silence to reflect upon the sacrifices and ongoing sacrifices of our veterans. And so let's please just bow our head in a moment of silence. Thank you, and thank you all for your ongoing service to this great nation. Now I'd like to perform our one and only Jennifer, to sing, the national anthem for us. Okay?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I'll turn the program back over to Jessica. Thank you.
Color guard, you can retire the colors. All right, next we would like to invite up Kevin Hathorn, who's the Deputy Supervisor for the Town of Wappinger, to provide us on some updates for the Veterans Advisory Committee, as well as some other Veterans Affairs items happening in the town.
I wanted to direct your attention to the table on my left and your right. There's actually two tables. One is the POW MIA single empty chair table. The other one is for the military war dogs. The bowl that rests on the floor has water in it, and symbolizes the military war dogs who have gone before today's generation, as well as today's generation. But we pause to recognize our POWs and MIAs. We call your attention to the small table, which occupies a place of dignity and honor. It's set for one, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks. They're referred to as POWs and MIAs. We call them comrades. They are unable to be with their loved ones and their families, so we join together to pay humble tribute to them and to bear witness to their continued absence. The table is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her suppressors. The his or her is very important. The tablecloth is white, which is symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. The single rose in the vase signifies the blood they may have shed and were ready to shed. in sacrifice to ensure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. The rose also reminds us of the family and friends of our missing comrades who keep faith while awaiting their return. The red ribbon on the vase represents the red ribbons worn on the lapels of the thousands who demand, with unyielding determination, a proper account of our comrades who are not among us. A slice of lemon on the plate, or in this case, a whole lemon, reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt that is sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of families as they wait. The glass should be inverted because they cannot toast with us at this time. The chair is empty. They are not here. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors to open arms of a grateful nation. The American flag reminds us that many of them may never return, and they have paid the supreme sacrifice to ensure our freedom. Let us pray to the Supreme Commander of all that our comrades will soon be with us back within our ranks. Let us remember and never forget their sacrifice. May God forever watch over them and protect them and their families. One very important thing to remember is that as we just saw go by the Marist ROTC, most of the soldiers who've fought in the wars have been teenagers. Thank you. As far as Veterans Affairs and Veterans Accomplishments, on your way out, take a look under the portico. There's a white box that is built for American flags. American flags which are torn and frayed, uncolored, or actually faded, are no longer serviceable. They shouldn't be flown if they're frayed or torn or anything like that. They should be deposited in something like that box. So on June 14th, which is Flag Day, they can be disposed of respectfully. In this case, we're going to burn them respectfully. The ones that are made out of artificial materials have to go up to the Resource Recovery Agency because the fumes are toxic. Because we're starting to get pelted with rain, I call or ask Assemblymen and state senators to come on up and join me. I believe it's Sue Serino has an announcement to make.
No, you can make it.
Go right ahead.
You did it.
I wasn't any more ready than you.
The governor is actually signing a bill today that Kevin had worked on with Assemblyman Keeler and myself for naming Route 9 the Veterans Memorial Highway. So he's going to be signing it today, and we are ecstatic. So thank you to our veterans. Thank you, Kevin. You want to say anything about it? Or?
Yeah. We're going to be using the state DOT to erect the two signs. One is going to be on the southern border, down near Splashdown. It's going to be as close to the border of Fishkill and Wappingers as possible. The other one is going to be north, somewhere around where the Subaru dealer is. The town of Wappinger goes up to the bridge. So we have all that space there. There will be a notice going out when we're going to have the celebration to commemorate those two signs. There is somewhere around 30 or 40,000 cars a day driving through Wappinger. And each one of those folks driving will have a smile on their face as they pass one of those signs. So again, I thank Assemblyman Laura and State Senator Serino for all that they have done. Thank you.
Do you want to stay up here and make care of this? Okay. Oh, can somebody please stand out? In light of the rain, and I'm going to try to keep this brief, and I'm sorry, but first I want to say thank you to Supervisor Thurston and the town board for always hosting this ceremony. It's beautiful. Thank you to all of our veterans, to your families, and to the Gold Star families who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Another announcement I want to make, because I'm not sure if everybody knows it, but our county executive appointed Adam Roach as our new director of Veteran Services. I've worked with Adam probably for the past 5 or 6 years. He's an amazing asset to the county. If anybody that's watching or here has any questions or needs any help, he's awesome. And like I said, he serves on my Veterans Advisory Committee.
And he's also a resident of this town.
Yeah, yes, that's very true. He bought a house in Wappingers, which is great. And for me, our World War II veterans it's a very special place in my heart. I'm not sure, is anybody here from World War II? No, not out. World War II, yes, we have a World War II veteran right out front. Thank you, sir, for your service. Thank you. During World War II, my grandfather was the mayor in the former Yugoslavia. Some of you may have heard this story, and it's like I learn a little bit more every time my dad delves into this. But so my grandfather, like I said, was the mayor for 27 years. I guess they didn't believe in term limits. I do. But during the war, our guys were flying over Yugoslavia to get to Italy, and they were being shot down. And my grandfather harbored 12 American airmen for a few months. And during that period, or after that period of time too, my grandfather was put in a prison, which I just found out about in 2017 when I went over to Yugoslavia with my dad, and he showed me where it was. And my grandfather actually lost the use of his leg. But if you were to ask him, he would say it was all about doing the right thing. And one of those young men promised my grandfather that he was going to come back when it was safe and bring one of his children back to America. And my father was the youngest of 7 children, so it was my dad that was able to come to America. And Stanley Taxel was the veteran. He was my godfather. He since passed. We have one of the 12 gentlemen are still alive in Colorado, and I believe he's 98 years old right now. In 1974, also they did a story in the Poughkeepsie Journal because they all reunited here in Wappingers Falls at my home, old home. So I just want to say a special thank you to all of our veterans and the families. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being here. And thank you, Supervisor Thurston. Thank you.
All right, great to be with you today. I know it's drizzling a little bit, so I'll be brief, but I've also driven by the sign a little bit south of here. It says Wappinger Strong down on Route 9, so I know we can handle a little bit of drizzle here in my hometown of Wappinger. And it's great to be here commemorating Veterans Day with you. And I was thinking about it this morning, how dynamic the American veteran is. Think about it. The American serviceman, who goes on to become a veteran, is a humanitarian. Right now, in far-flung places around the world, there are American men and women in the armed forces providing humanitarian assistance to poor people, to people ravaged by famine, to areas ravaged by the weather and other catastrophes. I'm sure in this crowd we have our veterans who provided humanitarian service. I know that I did, and many of the 21st century veterans did also. The American veteran was also an ambassador of our country. I went to boot camp with a guy, his name was Recruit Joseph, and he was from Haiti. He was born in Haiti, and he came to the United States when he was 10 or 12, and the drill instructor asked him, why did you join the Marine Corps? And he said, I was a little kid, and we had been hit by a hurricane, and there was poverty and there was tyranny, and American Marines came and saved my family and made it possible for me to come to America, and I wanted to pay the United States back, and here I am, a recruit on Paris Island. And that Marine, or those Marines that Recruit Joseph saw as a little boy, they were ambassadors of everything that is great about our country. Our servicemen and our veterans and our servicewomen are also peacekeepers. Just by preparing, just by being ready for when the flag goes up and they're needed to ply their trade, they're keeping the peace. As President Washington said, the most effective way to keep the peace is to prepare for war. So our men and women in uniform are at once warriors and peacekeepers. And the word warrior is probably the most quintessential term that's applied to veterans, and there are no greater warriors in the world right now, or in the history of the world, greater than the American military man and woman. If you think about, even in the last 75 years from World War II to the present, Omaha Beach, a decisive victory on D-Day and afterwards that changed the trajectory of the 20th century. The Battle of Incheon in Korea a few years later. We got a foothold in Korea and stopped communist aggression in Asia. A decade or so later in Vietnam, in the battle for Hue City, Americans fought and died to protect the United States, to protect our ideals, and to stand by our allies. And in the 20th century, in the 21st century, in places like Fallujah, the United States stood up. We answered the call, We met our enemies in places like Fallujah, in Iraq, and Afghanistan, and our enemies met their demise there and weren't able to do us harm here. And probably the most unsung thing that our veterans do is what our veterans are doing right now. We live in a world that's 49% to 51% or 50-50 divided in this country, at least politically. But here we are, all kinds of people, all kinds of political beliefs brought together by the men and women who served us before, who are continuing to serve us. So I was on a radio show this morning, and the interviewer asked me a question I never really thought about before, and I never really had been asked before. He said, "Is it appropriate to say Happy Veterans Day?" And I thought about it for a second. I said, well, I wouldn't say Happy Memorial Day. That is a solemn occasion where we recognize those who have fallen in battle. But Happy Veterans Day, I think, is incredibly appropriate. This is a happy occasion. We celebrate the men and women who served our country, who made it home, who continue to serve our communities. So I say to my fellow veterans today, thank you for standing a post. Thank you for patrolling a perimeter. Thank you for keeping safe the skies and the seas for our country and our allies. And thank you for answering the call when our country needed you. Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it stopped raining. That speech was so good, the rain stopped. How about that?
The rain will be back, so that's why we're going to be wrapping this up with some closing remarks from our town supervisor, as well as a closing song from Jennifer Prophy. But before our town supervisor comes up, I again just wanted to say thank you to all of you for coming. I wanted to say thank you to all of our elected officials. Usually we have a lot of very ceremonial announcements and things like that, and of course they are all willing to forego that to speed this up to allow you to be dry and make sure that we can honor our veterans, because that's what's most important. So thank you to them as well. And here is our town supervisor.
Thank you, Jessica. I think that the words that Karen has left with us also is summed up by the word hero. And every one of you is heroes. I had the fortune of being alongside of a real hero as well, in the name of Pete Peterson. He was shot down in 1966 over North Vietnam, and was one of the original 11 that was imprisoned under very tough conditions in the Hanoi Hilton, which I've also had the fortune of visiting and see how difficult the lives were. We were out in the field actually looking for dog tag and remains, and actually each visit out there was a very important one. And he said, and has since also been stated, that really he's survived and continued. In order for that, he may continue to provide constructive purpose, do something constructive with his life. And also he said to me that, that's also, I know you didn't serve, but please, continue to try to do something constructive in all ways. And I know that our town board, our public officials are all very dedicated to that. I actually was fortunate to be able to get a roofing tile of the Hanoi Hilton, and I have that. I'm hoping for the day that we do have a Veterans Museum here in this county. I'm hoping that actually it will be at Carnwath, but then I would hope that our two representatives can help us achieve that, and Kevin as well. But in closing, and before we have a song, and then right after the song, I'm going to ask Legislator Cavazzini to finalize this program by ringing our bell 11 times in symbolization of November the 11th. And of course, the armistice of the peace was signed on at 11 o'clock on that day. We're not holding the service this day at that time. But I'd like to leave a thought for today, and it's a little poem that says, "Dear veterans, those of us who have not served will never fully understand the sacrifices you've made, both in times of war and times of peace. We will never fully understand what you were required to do or how you were able to do it. We will never fully understand the depth of your scars. But what we can offer you is this: we see you, we recognize your humanity, and we send you love that is gentle, patient, and healing. With blessings and gratitude, we ask that you remember you are loved. thank you. Thank you for your service. God bless you, and God bless all of our veterans, and of course, God bless the United States of America. So we'll now have Jennifer come up and saying, God bless America, but I'd also like everybody to rise where you can rise and join in singing with Jennifer if you don't mind. And then we'll have Joey ring 11 times.
While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance for a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you, Joey.
So that closes our ceremony. Thank you everyone for coming. We didn't beat the rain completely, but we did a pretty good job, and thank you all for coming. Have a great day.
Thank you.